strange signal. Here, sir, you better take a look at it.
Hello listeners, and welcome to another episode of Life Through a Prism with your host Rob Tierney. And today we're finishing off our series with Merran on technology and her experiences through life. And today we're going to be talking about how technology brought us together and how our friendship has evolved after that. So welcome, Merran.
Oh, thank you very much.
It's nice to have you back again for the last one in this series, and I just want to thank you for sharing, your story with your technology, how it's changed over the years. So what I might get you to do, Merran, is if you could, from your point of view, share how our paths crossed, how you came to get to the point where I came along.
I think we could say that it started with my needing some help, because there had been sometimes people here to do for our vision impaired community up here, but never very long and never more in sort of regular areas. So it had to be decided at how we could find something that was local and available, and a possible. Something that we could possibly use as a technology buddy, you might say. Mm-hmm. And I was looking for somebody. Marie Ingram, who was that client services person at the time, said to me that she knew somebody that was part of a computer club and would probably had one of the things that he was doing was with people who had more issues as far as age was concerned than me, although that was probably the main reason. And so I said, well, okay, then we'll see what we can do. And we did. Now, I can remember the very first day that Rob was going to come and see me. He told me what his name was, who he was, and I thought, oh, okay. And it was raining. It was an awful day, actually. And I'd gone to my hairdresser and I had a phone call suggesting that I might be coming today, Merran, it's too wet. I could send somebody else if you like. And I thought, well, no, we won't do that, because I was going to be doing it with one person only. It wasn't one person to be involved. Computers don't seem to like a lot of extra people tinkering with them. And so I thought, well, only one was a better deal than anything else. So that was fine. So that was when you, Robert, and I first met, and you'd started your life with adaptable technology, but using voice, changing text, print to text, and readable text. Mm-hmm. And you, of course, this was a new experience. So you were either going to be pretty much floored by it, or you were going to be curious, and then kept on going to find out where this was possibly going to lead. So that was how we began together, I believe.
Yep. So when they said to you, because I think from our discussions that they'd mentioned that I had really had a lot to do with assistive technology, how did that make you feel, having somebody that may or may not have grasp of assistive technology coming into your house and looking at it going, Mm-hmm.
Well, I decided to take it, okay, you don't have many options as far as anybody that's going to be able to help you. So let's see where this might take us. Mm-hmm. If it's somebody that maybe starting out doesn't know very much about the technology, which I'm able to use, then it's going to be a little bit interesting to see what happens. But I've decided that if you were curious enough, you'd probably keep going.
Yeah, thanks for that. So, from my point of view, I had been a volunteer at a computer club, and we had a program where we used to go out and help people in their homes who either come to classes and needed extra help, or for whatever reason were not able to come and use our computers. Well, in the case of Merran, being totally blind and using her own computer, it wasn't going to be, it just wasn't going to work. So my experience up to this time helping people with vision impairment was mostly with people with macular degeneration. And so that was helping people with screen readers so they could see the screen a lot clearer, a lot bigger, and basics to do with just making the font sizes, the icons on the desktop bigger. And I sort of really had been just touching the surface on that. And so when I was contacted about, there's this person called Merran who was needing some help, it was sort of like, well, okay, this will be interesting. I'll either be able to help or I won't be able to help, because I've always felt that with technology changing so much, when I was studying at TAFE, I studied computers for 3 years, and at the end of it they said, well, everything you now know is obsolete because everything has changed.
Yes.
So I had been learning, for many years on the go, and basically they say, you're teaching somebody, you're one step ahead of them. So when I came to Merran was 101 steps ahead of me. So it was sort of like sitting and having a looking at, because at the time you had an XP, and it was sort of like, oh good, I know XP, but I knew XP was very limited in what it could do as far as assistive technology was concerned and accessibility. So I had not heard of JAWS, and it was sort of like, okay, Merran, is there a manual that I can have a look at? Because it was sort of like JAWS is sort of, and you can fill in a bit more, Merran, is very key orientated,
yes.
keystrokes, combinations. So I was sort of it's like going back to school, because you are learning, you are learning. But the thing was, we were both learning together, because the skills that Merran needed and to be able to use her computer, and me learning how to use this program, we were both in a very similar situation, like, well, let's jump off the deep end, what can happen, and lots of noises from the computer when hitting the wrong buttons and laughing and stuff like that. So it was sort of like, I think we were very much like, okay, we're sort of both at a level pegging sort of thing, because my experience and knowledge of computers, your vast knowledge of assistive technology, we were able to come together, and I think we gelled pretty much straight away, didn't we?
I think we did.
Yeah, it was sort of like, because I was always and still am of the opinion that if you go into a situation and you're helping somebody and it is way out of your depth, then you don't go into it, because you can get so far into it and it's letting the other person down, because they could get some help maybe from somewhere else. So that started our journey. And would you like to talk about, you've touched on it in a little bit in the past, but the assistive technology JAWS that you're using at the time and the XP that you were using. How fun was that, Merran?
Oh boy, it was fun sometimes. It was terribly frustrating at others, because obviously it didn't always do what you wanted it to do. It didn't always give you the information you needed. Only things that be particular to itself. And sometimes it was a matter of trying to find out what it wasn't telling you that you maybe needed to know urgently, or then what it did, what you could do with what it actually had to say, in terms of whether we actually needed it or not. And the difficulties of that sort of thing can throw up. It's quite interesting.
Because we were dealing with emails, so we were dealing with Outlook.
That one.
We were dealing with web browsers.
Yes, that's right.
We were dealing with one of our favourites, antivirus.
Oh, yes.
Wouldn't let JAWS work at sometimes because
No, it did.
in the virus's database it saw that it was a virus.
That's
it was
right. It needed to be killed.
needed to be killed. So there was a lot of scratching heads and googling and working out how we were going to go. But with the situation with the JAWS program, because when you pay for it, Merran, you get 3 major updates,
That's right.
don't you?
You do, and then you have to pay for the next one.
I
was a way behind there.
Yeah. And we were coming to the end of you're coming to the end of your life of your XP, and sort of like
that's right.
then it was sort of like the decision was, where do you go next?
Here,
because it was sort of like you had your last version of the 3. So what did we do next, Merran? What did we decide to do?
Well, we decided that we'd better look at the Windows programs for a start, because obviously that was changing. That was where things were going to go to. And then finding out from there where we could go with any adaptive technology, which was going to help us to deal with it. Mind you, they sort of get a little, they get be a bit above themselves, I think, sometimes. They really do. Computers, nasty people they can be. I've called him a nasty little man quite a lot.
And the thing being is that because of the technology, because it's such a niche market, you've got stuff like browsers and email programs that are racing ahead, and they're not keeping up because it's a niche product, because there is, the stuff that the computer's operating system has supposed to be sufficient enough in the eyes of the makers, so that people will be able to carry on.
And it's the speed it goes at too. To the time you've got anything in adaptive technology to catch up with it, you're a year or 2 ahead of us again. You never. I don't know that it will ever catch up to be compatible today with, hey, we've got this, and we'd say, and tomorrow we can use things just the same you do. Hey, that's never going to happen. Not in our. Well, I don't think it will in our. My lifetime, I don't think it ever will.
So then we sort of went. We jumped from. We went to Windows 7 next.
We did,
didn't we?
Yeah.
That was fun.
That was fun.
Because you were getting to the end of the life of your, JAWS was trying to.
That's right.
So you'd had these updates, and so you were sort of hanging on, because it's not cheap. These things are.
Oh God, they're not cheap.
Are very expensive programs.
Yes.
And so it's sort of like it's all in that timing of which is going to last first, the computer or the program.
Oh, that's quite true. I mean, this was an American product. It was very good at what it did, very sophisticated at what it was doing. But again, it was expensive, and those are the ones that will do the best jobs. There's a lot of other, 1 or 2, I think that. Are there any free ones these days? I don't know whether there are.
No,
I don't believe there is.
Sure.
But some of them weren't as expensive. But then again, they didn't go as far enough into what people were needing from their computers and their screen readers. And I think that just then limits you again. You have to go with the best you can. Well, the best you can do. Or afford, really.
Yes, because there's programs that you can basically get a basic screen reader that will read, like if you've got a PDF file, portable document format with Adobe, that will allow you to read some documents.
Yes, not all. So.
No, not all. And so again, that was the other thing with JAWS too. It was sort of like the older version of JAWS and the newer version of stuff. We were finding it couldn't read it properly.
That's right. No.
So it was sort of like, then we sort of jump ahead a bit, and then we got to the point where the computer was saying you can't go any further, and it was like Windows 11 was the one that you had to go to.
Yep.
So you got to the point where the Windows 7 was like, was like, when do you, again?
Yes,
when are you going to make that jump? Because you'd had 8 8.1 in between
That's right.
10. And so it was like, when, no, and we sort of kept talking about when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? And so then again, it was like, will the computer be compatible with the current laptop? And I think you had to end up buying another laptop.
I did, yeah.
Because it was sort of like things were no longer compatible and it was, that far along.
Yep.
So then that meant you had to buy new jaws.
That's it.
So not only was it expensive a new laptop,
Yep.
and so we come along and like Windows 11, which there was never going to be one. It was going to be Windows 10, but that's another
that's another story.
Another story. So with Windows 11, it's almost sort of like that causes each new version of an operating system has its own challenges.
It does, yes.
With it, and with JAWS, it's sort of like when you're updating, is that sometimes you can't. If it's up, Windows is updating, JAWS can't see the screen, can it? It can't tell you if it's updating, and. You've had some issues, haven't you, where you've been trying to start the computer.
Damn, yes.
And it's like, you can hear...
I can hear it. I know that thing's happening.
Yeah, with the hard drive, you can
hear it
sense the
spinning.
hard drive, hear it spinning. But then you come to the point where, I can't log in. I don't know where it is.
That's it.
So where, somebody with sight can look and go, okay, well, that's saying it wants you to press next to finish what it is.
Let's do it, yes.
So it's really we've had to sort of come up with some inventive ways to deal with this because it can be very stressful. It's stressful enough when you can see. And I would imagine for someone not being able to see, that causes extra stress because you've got no way of knowing what's going on.
No. You just call him a nasty little man.
Yeah. And then we hope sort of like when I come along, because it's sort of like you're very good at giving descriptions of what it's doing or what it's not doing. And I sort of go, yep, okay, I think I know what it is. I'll check it when I get there.
Yep.
And 9 times out of 10, it's fixable.
Yep.
But when they have these big updates,
oh yes,
and it takes quite a while, and it does. You don't know how long it's going to take. That's where the frustration can set in.
Yeah, it is.
So, where do you think assistive technology? If you had the wish with assistive technology, what would you say would be your ultimate, the best sort of assistive technology?
What I would say, and this is probably a bit more general as well, I'd like to see adaptive and specialised technology and the computers themselves shake hands more readily and have programs when you decide what the computer does, not what it decides you want it to do. Because that way you're going to have more control over what you're doing, what you will be doing with whatever the screen reading technology is going to be able to do in the future. I believe that's the only way it can go. You need to have more control over what it likes to do for itself. And I think that's probably a backward step in ways as they move forward and in the sophistication of what we're using.
Mm-hmm. So now we fast forward sort of today, and who would have thought that we would have got our friendship would have evolved out of that, a common sort of denominator coming from sides of the coin where I didn't know about assistive technology, and you needed some support, I never would have, thought it's been I enjoy the journey even though it's frustrating with the computer.
Yes, because we find niches in there where you can just laugh and nothing else is going to do it.
Oh yeah, yeah. And they come up with some funny things. Or
they do indeed.
Yeah. So, as a final to wrap up this series, Merran, is there anything that you would like to say to our listeners about, your journey and if they're feeling frustrated, any tips that you can give people?
To those that will be using future technologies, I say good luck to you. And for the simple reason is it is not going to be easy, it's going to become even more sophisticated. But as the younger generations come through, this is going to be part of their life in any case, and part of their lives as babies upwards. So that may be that'll make it easier, at least for one side of the equation. The other side of the equation is, are we going to have more people who, because the type of technology that's coming up is going to be of a more general nature in some aspects, then other people within a family group or among friends or teachers or whatever are going to have more knowledge about this kind of thing than they have at this particular point in time. And I believe if that's the way we go, it's going to be better for everybody, because everybody will probably use a form of it. Oh, truth. and I shouldn't have said that. Everybody will, find it easier, perhaps, and less frustrating to deal with. My phone's been cranky.
Wonders of modern technology when you're recording.
That's right. It's a message now.
Yeah. So that's a bit of a new technology. Just as a side thing before we wrap up, is that you've gone into. You've gone a big jump from an old Nokia non-smartphone to an Apple, to an iPhone, and that's been. We could do a whole thing on that, but it's sort of like it's one of those things, isn't it? You get to the point where you've got no choice. Yeah. There's things that you can't do.
Yes.
Whether you're sighted or unsighted, and harder for someone, unsighted, is that you've got to find out what things it will do, and then that's learning all over again.
Yep.
So I think anybody, with the age or ability, whatever, to be learning new technology, I think it's difficult. It's fantastic, but I think, would you say that it's given you that bit more freedom, having that smartphone technology, especially with your hearing aids?
Yes, that's right. Yes, as I learn more about it, I will as time goes on, and it'll become more easier for me, because as I'm able to, probably will buy into something that's a later model of. You pick up things as you go along, and eventually you're able to use the damn sight more than when you started out, and know that you can do it without thinking to yourself, oh boy, like this morning, I had to use my old hearing aids for a while because one of mine decided didn't want to charge. Well, I fixed those. I fixed it, and I'm suddenly standing there looking to a friend, and I thought, you sillies, you silly sods, you can't do it through your hearing aids. You got to use the screen on the blessed phone. Oh well, we managed. Oh
dear, wonders of modern technology.
Yes, that's quite true.
Well, thank you very much, Merran, for being part of this series. I've really enjoyed hearing your story and being able to be part of your journey. So, listeners, thank you very much for taking the time to listen, and please, if you like, subscribe. Until next time, listeners, take care and bye for now.